What's up, my wizards? It's Dev, SBMTG from the YouTube.com. We like magic, and I'm back finally with some Monday Hour of Devastation spoilers. We didn't get any all weekend, which usually happens during the official spoiler season, but still checking my phone all weekend, like, where are the spoilers? So we finally got some more this Monday morning, and some of them are pretty cool, so let's go ahead and go over them. This one's from late last night. This is Amon Eternal. This is 3 mana, 2 and a black, for a 5/5 zombie crocodile demon. Check that creature type. With Afflict 3. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter on Amon Eternal. And whenever Amon Eternal deals combat damage to a player, remove all the -1/-1 counters from it. Alright, so first glance, 3 mana 5/5 looks pretty sweet, especially one with a couple of different cool abilities, you know? Like, not only can it remove all the -1/-1 counters on it, thus negating its one negative ability, but it's also got Afflict 3, which is pretty sweet, actually. Although, this is yet another lesson. The life lost off of Afflict is not combat damage. Don't think that it is. It's not. Card is also not Pharoahs Negator. I've seen some people that have been playing for a while, just like me. They're like, hey, 3 mana 5/5. That's Pharoahs Negator. It's not. It's not. This is actually pretty great when it comes down against control and they can't do anything about it, you know, against decks with relatively fewer threats. The card looks okay, but as far as whether or not it actually sees play in anything, I'm not sure, guys. Like, a lot of people are saying this could probably see play in zombies, but that deck already has a glut of 3-drops that are just better. Like, Lord of the Accursed is better, Diagraph Colossus is better, and there's still other 3-drops that are probably better than this for that deck. So that's probably the only deck I could actually see this getting real play in. Aside from that, I'm not seeing it. So if it's not good enough in that deck, I don't think it's good enough anywhere. Although the card does look pretty sweet. The fact that, like, it dies to your opponent playing magic. Like, usually we say it dies to removal, right? It just dies to your opponent playing too much magic. And I don't like any card like that. So not a huge fan, although I want to be. Here's another Aftermath card. This is Refuse to Cooperate right here. The Refuse half you play out of your hand. It's 4 mana, 3 and a red for an instant. Refuse deals damage to target spell's controller equal to that spell's converted mana cost. And Cooperate, you'll cast out of your graveyard. It's 2 and a blue for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Well, Refuse does not look great. You know, you have to play it in response to a spell, but it doesn't counter the spell. Like, it seems like a counter spell, but it doesn't counter anything. It just deals damage to them equal to the spell's CMC, which is not entirely great, especially competitive formats where, like, you don't see a lot of 5, 6, and 7 mana cards where Refuse would be pretty good. You know what I mean? But that said, Cooperate is kind of nice. You know, a 3 mana splashable pseudo fork isn't bad at all, and it's cool that it just sits in your graveyard waiting for your opponent or you to cast something that you want to copy. You know, I actually don't mind this as long as you can get into your graveyard, but Refuse is not necessarily the best looking card to me. Although I guess if you're looking to just play Cooperate, you can do a lot worse than just like playing Refuse to get Cooperate into your graveyard. But, you know, you can also dump this into your graveyard fairly easily. So just to recap, TLDR, I do like one half of this card a good bit, but I don't like the first half like at all. But I guess, you know, if you're just playing for the second half of this card, then you can look at the first half as just like incidental damage that you get to do. So that's not bad, I guess. Here's Overwhelming Splendor right here. It's 8 mana, 6 and 2 white for another enchant player. This is an Aura Curse. Creatures enchanted player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1. And enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. Commander Staple, maybe? I mean, 8 mana is a lot of mana. That is so much mana. But, you know, some people have been having some success with Sandworm Convergence. I'm serious on that. I've even seen on Spike's message board, which is just the competitive Magic message board, some people saying that Sandworm Convergence might be the real deal if you cheat it out. Same thing here, but I'm still not sure. And Sandworm Convergence doesn't rely on your opponent. Like, this messes with what your opponent has on board, but Sandworm just gives you more stuff for your own board, which is typically better. So I'm not 100% sure, man. 8 mana is so much. 8 mana is so freaking much. Although once you get there, the text on the card is phenomenal. So cards like that are usually relegated to Commander, and if you can cheat this out in any way in that format, then it seems like it'd be a pretty good card. So I just boo probably on this. I would say no. I would say no to this. Here's Unraveling Mummy right here. It's 3 mana, 1, a white, and a black for a 2/3 zombie. You can pay 1 and a white to have target attacking zombie gain lifelink until end of turn, or you can pay 1 and a black to have target attacking zombie get death touch until end of turn. Well, this is going to be a house in limited, seriously. Card looks fine in limited. 3 mana, 2/3, that's at least decent stats, but it's an amazing mana sink that works with your Embalmed guys and your Eternalized guys and any other zombies you may have drafted, including this guy himself. That's kind of cool. So, Death Touch is a very relevant ability, as is Lifelink, for that matter. So, 2 very good abilities that you can sink mana into on this guy. Like, really seems fantastic. But in competitive play, the White-Black Zombies deck, I am, again, not seeing this necessarily. Again, there's just so many better 3-drops that deck could play, you know. And I didn't even mention Plague Belcher earlier with the other 3-drops that zombies can play. And I think Plague Belcher is better than either of the 3-drop zombies that we've seen today. Although, again, in budget zombies and in you know, limited, whether you're drafting up the zombies deck or you got a few zombies in your sealed pool, this thing looks freaking phenomenal. I know it sounds like I'm kind of pooping on some of the spoilers today. I've gotten that in the comments section a couple times this spoiler season. Man, you really crapped on all these cards, but like, not necessarily. I know that the job of a YouTuber is supposed to be to like hype up cards, but I'm not. I like to evaluate things objectively. I'm not going to tell you a card is the shiznibble skitty bop when it's like, probably not. So, I'm hyped for the set. I'm always hyped to see new cards, but I'm going to be honest with you. At the same time, I respect your intelligence. Some of these cards aren't the best cards in the world, even if they look pretty fun and look good. Like that last zombie, this zombie right here, he looks okay, right? But in competitive play, I don't think there's a chance. And I'm not going to lie to you about that. So, with that said, I'm going to show you a card that I actually think is really good that nobody's giving enough credit. Like, some of these cards I've shown you today, people are going gaga over. I don't objectively think they're that good. Now, this card, though, I think is much better than people are giving it credit for. And people don't hate it, they're just passing it over. So here is Champion of Wits. Champion is 3 mana, that's 2 and a blue for a 2/1 Naga Wizard. When Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. You can internalize it for 7 mana. Okay, so I sort of look at this like a Mole Drifter. A little bit. Now, Mole Drifter gives you straight up card advantage when you evoke it. And when you just play it for 5, too. And that card advantage is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. This is card selection, which is not as great, and you have to discard a couple of cards, but there's one deck that I'm specifically happy about this for, and that's a Solar Flare deck. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Solar Flare is an Esper deck traditionally, although I think in this format, it can be a blue-black X deck. I'm not sure what that third color is, but it's traditionally an Esper Reanimator deck that has elements of control in it. You know, play some counter spells, play some removal, but also has a reanimation plan. And this card, I think, could be really, really good in that deck for a couple of reasons. First of all, draws you cards. You want to see more cards in a reanimation deck because it's essentially a combo deck that doubles as a control deck, and control decks want to draw cards too. Now, this also lets you dump cards into your graveyard, which is obviously what you want to do in a reanimator strategy, so that's good too. Importantly in that deck, this guy also gives you a creature to sacrifice to Razaketh. When you do reanimate your Razaketh, you're going to want to sacrifice something to it to go tutor something up, whatever that is. So in a couple of specific decks, I think this card is actually looking pretty decent. You know, if you sacrifice it to Emerge for Deep Fiend, or you sacrifice it to Razaketh, then once you get enough mana, if you ever get there, right, you can eternalize it, and then draw 4 and discard 2. So that's straight up card advantage right there. I know 7 mana is a lot to eternalize, but in the Solar Flare deck, you might get to 7 mana. Again, it's partially a control deck, so it's going long. So you might get to 7 mana and be able to draw a buttload of cards and get a decent body off of it too. So altogether, I think that this card is okay in a specific deck. I'm not really sure how good it is in a vacuum or outside of a strategy that really wants it, but I will say a body that draws you cards when it comes into play and enables things like Madness or any graveyard strategies seems decent, at least. So I don't think the card is bad at all, and it's actually probably my favorite card of the day, although I do have one more to show you. And the final card of the day, this actually got spoiled right before I came on camera. This is God Pharoahs Gift. We finally get to see it, everybody. It's 7 mana for an artifact that's not legendary, by the way. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. It gains haste until end of turn. I'm going to leave the graphic up here so I can show you Gate to the Afterlife. That's what works with this right here, and you can actually do it for much cheaper than it takes to just put Pharoahs Gift into play from your hand. You know, 7 mana is an awful lot, but when you're talking about essentially a combined 5 mana to play Gate and then sack it, that's not bad. Now, you have to have 6 creatures in your graveyard to make that work. And that's probably not too hard, although I should have said this when I was talking about the Reanimator deck. We have seen a couple of really good cards that hate on the graveyard in this set. So be very careful when you're putting these strategies together. But if you can dump 6 cards or 6 creatures into your graveyard really quickly for Gate to the Afterlife, you go get your Pharoahs Gift and start going to work. And actually, Pharoahs Gift does not look bad once it's in play. I would really like if it was any graveyard, but it's just your graveyard you can pull creatures out of. But you'll still get ETB effects and stuff. That seems really, really nice. You won't get cast triggers, but you'll still get enter the battlefield effects. These creatures are uncounterable when you put them into play with old GPG. So altogether, card looks really good. Probably going to see a fair amount of commander play. Not really sure that a competitive deck exists that works Gate to the Afterlife and Pharoahs Gift into the same deck and a bunch of creatures. We're going to definitely try it out. It's probably going to end up fairly budget. We'll see. But I'm not sure how competitive that deck is, but it looks super fun. And I'm glad we finally got to see what this is. And it's awesome that it's not legendary. Being able to put like 2 creatures from your graveyard into play every single turn as 4/4s, you know, that's nice. And this is cool too, because like even if you have a bunch of 1/1s in your graveyard, you essentially have a bunch of 4/4s in your graveyard, which is pretty sweet. I'm tapped out for now. That's all the cards for today so far, but I got a sneaking suspicion they're going to try to put some past us a little bit later on tonight. So stay tuned. We may be back later. But until then, I got some work to do, man. I got some more deck doctoring to do for Patreon, trying to kick those out as quickly as I possibly can while still devoting enough time to them, you know. But if you haven't gotten your deck doctor yet, it is coming, I promise, patrons. But for now, go ahead and like the video. If you like the video, you should also click subscribe if you haven't done that yet. You can hit the bell next to it. Make sure you get the notifications whenever I put a video out. You can also follow us on Twitter at SBMTGDev or check out the Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. That was probably the fastest I could do that. In any case, I've had a lot of coffee today. But in any case, I am Deb from SBMTG. Make sure you let me know how you felt about all these down there as usual. Did I misevaluate a card? Do I like a card you hate? Do I hate a card you love? Always interested to see, because maybe I've lacked perspective on this and I missed an interaction. Always good to know what you feel. So let me, just show me your ideas down there, and I'll look at them. That's how this works. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, my wizards.